Cool, huh? Ever wondered how does it work? Look no further, because in this video I'm gonna be explaining in and outs of this whole sharpening thing. In another episode of... So today let's focus on focusing. Fucking focusing, how does it work?
Lenses.
How do they work? And I don't want to talk to a scientist. Yo, I'm flying and getting me pissed.
So as you know from previous episodes, we have a bunch of different glasses in our lens. We also have sensor, which is the matrix or film, and light goes through and all that crap. But how does the focusing itself works? So we just take lens and we just move it, usually front to back. So we have glass that is moving all the time, back and forth. Some of the cameras and also some of the smartphones will sometimes have the mirror or the sensor itself moving inside. So it can be applied both for moving parts of a lens or the sensor itself. That will also work if you move the camera further away or closer to your subject. So it's also a distance thing. But we also have autofocus. And autofocus is usually under like this semi-transparent mirror. You usually see that as a form of grid in your camera. Maybe there are like some points for focusing. So this is that thing. And also I think I should move it here. So in some cameras you have it over here for focusing right next to your grid thingy, to your viewfinder. So this is gonna be our autofocusing mesh. But how the fuck does the autofocusing systems actually work? So we have two primary categories of autofocusing, which are more or less exactly like gay people. So we have passive system and an active one. We also have something that's called hybrid, which will usually contain both of these systems together. So, passive one. It differentiates the contrasts within the picture and performs passive analysis of the image that is entering optical system, which means that it works a little bit slower because it works through the camera computer, right? Here, we usually have two different types. Phase detection is achieved by dividing the incoming light into the pairs of images and then just like comparing them. So basically animated bracketing. Or we also have contrast selection, or we can call it detection as well. And this one is achieved through measuring contrast with the sensor field TTL, which means through the lens. And the difference between pixels of the sensor naturally increases with correct image focus. So the optical systems can be adjusted until the maximum contrast is detected. Alright, so we'd be looking at contrasts and then basing the measurements off of that. So therefore, it might have some problems with low contrast images. And it does require light. So if we shooting at night, this shit won't really work. I mean, it might work, but it's not the best thing. It needs to find some elements in the space that are lit properly. And if they're lit, then it can focus on the image, no problem. But if the contrast's low, this shit don't work. Although, if we have a lit environment, let's say we're shooting photo from a distance, technically, the passive autofocusing doesn't have limits. So we can sharpen something that's like kilometers away from you. And it won't have a problem sharpening on said objects. So it doesn't have a space limit. The active systems, on the other hand, are literally fucking cyberpunk. They measure distance to subject independently from the optical system. And that can adjust optical system for correct focus way faster and way more precise. This is what Apple uses by implementing LiDAR in their devices. And since we had LiDAR, let's start with the first one, which is gonna be infrared. Or let's call it lasers. So with lasers, you literally either have a singular sensor or multiple sensors that shoot the light back and forth infrared. And the other kind of sci-fi one is ultrasound, which is basically the same shit that bat uses In case you don't know how it works, it basically creates those invisible sounds and they will bounce back so it knows the exact distance in between the subject and the camera. I think that's really fucking cool technology that we can basically mimic any animal like this. So, another perk of active systems, as you might figure out by this point, is that they work in any or no light whatsoever. It doesn't really matter because it shoots lasers or it shoots ultrasound that are unhearable for our ears. But some pets might hear it. That's maybe why your dog or a cat is freaked out every time you're using your camera. Or like those videos that someone like harms the spider when they try to focus with it on the iPhone, because iPhone uses infrared, so it shoots lasers. So imagine that. They close you in some huge glass enclosure and then blind you with lasers. And for what? For just having 8 legs? Humans have no chill, bruh. But since it utilizes distance, it is actually shit on distance. So that's why some of the manufacturers will use the hybrido, because with that you can sharpen in any conditions. But you might have noticed if you go into the focus setting in your camera, you have different types of focusing there as well. So for example, you might see this AI servo. And what continuous focus means? It does not stop focusing. So it's basically like an infinite loop of focusing. And that one is the best when your subject is moving. The next one is gonna be one shot. In one shot, as it says, it just locks the focus. So like in between pressing it fully, you usually have like this beep beep moment when your camera focuses on your subject. And I guess it's what you're doing every time you're taking a photo on a smartphone, but this locks the focus on your subject. Of course, we also have focus locking mode, focus in one spot, so even if you move your camera, the sharp part will move with you or with the camera as well. But for focus locking, I usually just switch off the autofocus, focus it by hand, and there you go, you have your focus locked. And the autofocusing sensors, which every time I see this, I know it's autofocus, but I read this as fuck. So, as fuck sensors are usually one-dimensional photosensitive strips, only few pixels high and few dozen wide. Some cameras have few high precision focusing points that I mentioned earlier, with auditory set of prisms and sensors. So since they rely on the light passing through them, at least the passive one does, it means that the brighter lens you have, the better autofocus will work. Of course, besides these two, we have plenty of different ones, like focusing on a moving subject and all that crap, but different manufacturers have different extras. For your main thing, these two will absolutely do. Yeah, that was basically all. In the next video, we're gonna talk a little bit about image stabilization, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. If I missed something or you don't understand something, in the comments you might ask questions regarding how this shit works. If you liked it, like the video. If you want to see more of these, check out the playlist.